In 1987, Margaret Chen sat in her cabin watching snow pile against the windows. Remote location, 40 miles from the nearest town. No neighbors, no phone service. Just her, the forest, and the memories of a husband who died 3 years prior. Then she heard the crying. Not human, not quite animal either, something in between, desperate and cold. Margaret pulled on her coat, grabbed her flashlight, and opened the door. The temperature hit her like a wall. 15 below zero, wind cutting through the trees. The crying came from near the woodpile. 2 creatures, small, covered in matted brown fur, shivering. Their eyes were too human, their hands too familiar. Fingers, not claws, maybe 2 feet tall, babies. Margaret had spent 40 years as a veterinary nurse. She'd seen bears, wolves, mountain lions. These weren't any of those. But they were dying. She scooped them up. They were surprisingly light, their fur frozen stiff. Carried them inside. Laid them by the wood stove. For the next 6 hours, Margaret worked. Warm blankets, heated milk diluted with water, gentle rubbing to restore circulation. The creatures whimpered but didn't fight her. By midnight, they were breathing steadily, curled together near the heat. One opened its eyes, dark and intelligent, and looked at her. Really looked at her. Margaret touched its hand. 5 fingers, opposable thumb. Fingernails, not claws. "What are you?" she whispered. The creature made a sound, soft, almost like a word. She named them Sam and Lily. Had to call them something. Spent that night watching them sleep, wondering if she'd lost her mind. Bigfoot wasn't real, everyone knew that. Except these 2 were sleeping on her floor. Morning came gray and bitter. Margaret made oatmeal. The babies ate it, slowly, cautiously. But they ate. Sam was bolder, explored the cabin, touching everything with careful fingers. Lily stayed close to Margaret, watching her move, mimicking her gestures. By noon they were playing, tossing a ball of yarn back and forth, making sounds that could have been laughter. Margaret was heating soup when she heard it. Footsteps, heavy, multiple, circling the cabin. She looked out the window. Nothing, but the footsteps continued, deliberate, purposeful. Then the knock. Not a fist on wood, more like something large, striking the door 3 times. Boom, boom, boom. Sam and Lily went silent, pressed against each other, trembling. Margaret grabbed the poker from the fireplace. "Who's there?" No answer. Another 3 knocks. She opened the door 6 inches, kept the chain locked. They stood in a semicircle, 7 of them, 8 feet tall, maybe more, covered in thick brown and gray fur, faces almost human, almost. The one in front was massive, scars across its chest, eyes locked on Margaret. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The creature pointed at her, then pointed at its chest, then at the cabin. It was asking for something. Margaret understood. "The babies. You want the babies." The creature nodded, slow, clear. Behind Margaret, Sam made a sound. The massive creature's expression changed, softened. "They were freezing," Margaret said. Her voice shook. "I couldn't leave them." The creature stepped forward. Margaret raised the poker. Useless. The thing could snap her in half. But it didn't attack. It knelt, lowered its head, placed one massive hand over its heart. Gratitude. It was showing gratitude. Margaret lowered the poker. "They're okay. I took care of them." The creature stood, made a deep sound in its chest. The others responded, a chorus of low rumbles. Then it gestured. "Come. You want me to come outside?" Another nod. Margaret looked at Sam and Lily. They were watching her, trusting her. She put on her coat, stepped onto the porch. The cold hit hard, but the creatures formed a circle around her, blocking the wind. The massive one knelt again, gestured for Margaret to approach. She did, slowly. It took her hand, gently, pressed it against its chest. She could feel the heartbeat, slow, strong, real. Then it pointed at the forest, at a path Margaret had never noticed, made a questioning sound. "You want me to follow you?" The creature nodded. Margaret went back inside. Got Sam and Lily. They clung to her, but when they saw the others, they squealed. Happy sounds. Recognition. The massive creature took Sam carefully. Another took Lily. They held the babies like they were made of glass. Then the massive one offered its hand to Margaret. She took it. They walked into the forest. The path was narrow, hidden. The creatures moved silently despite their size. Margaret stumbled, and hands caught her, steadied her. After 20 minutes, they reached a clearing, hidden in a ring of ancient pines. More creatures, dozens, young ones playing, adults gathering wood, a whole community. They stopped when they saw Margaret, went silent, staring. The massive one made a sound, long and complex. The others responded. Then, one by one, they approached Margaret. Each one touched her hand, pressed it to their chest, showing her their heartbeat, welcoming her. An older creature, fur gone white with age, brought her food, some kind of root, roasted. Margaret took it, ate it. It was surprisingly good. Sam and Lily were reunited with what Margaret assumed was their mother. She held them close, making soft sounds. Then she approached Margaret, took her hand, placed it on the babies' heads. "Thank you." Without words, but Margaret understood. They let her stay for hours, showed her their camp, how they built shelter, how they communicated, a language of sounds and gestures, complex, sophisticated. Margaret watched a young one carve a piece of wood with a stone tool, watched others weaving something like baskets. This wasn't primitive. This was a culture. When the sun started setting, the massive creature led her back toward her cabin. The whole group followed. At her door, they stopped. It touched her hand one more time, then placed something in her palm. A carved figure, rough but recognizable. A human woman holding two small creatures. Margaret looked up. "I can't tell anyone about you. They wouldn't understand." The creature seemed to understand. It nodded. Then it made a sound. Soft, almost like goodbye. They melted into the forest. Within seconds, they were gone, like they'd never been there. Margaret stood on her porch, holding the carving, evidence of the impossible. She went inside, made tea, sat by the fire. For 40 years, Margaret Chen kept that secret. Never told a soul. The carving sat on her mantel. Sometimes, on cold nights, she'd hear sounds in the forest. Familiar sounds. She'd leave food on the porch. By morning, it would be gone. Once, she found another carving. A thank you gift. When Margaret died in 2027 at age 92, her granddaughter found the carvings, dismissed them as crude art projects. But in the box with them was a journal. Margaret's handwriting, detailed notes about that winter, about Sam and Lily, about the tribe. The granddaughter read it, didn't believe it. Who would? Except for the final entry, written just days before Margaret died. They came to say goodbye. The massive one, now old like me. We sat together on the porch, no words needed, just two old souls who'd shared something impossible. It touched my hand one last time. Then it was gone. I'll see them again soon, in whatever comes next. Some connections transcend species, transcend death. I saved 2 babies from the cold. They gave me a family I never knew I needed. Fair trade. The granddaughter keeps the journal now, shows it to no one. Sometimes, at her own cabin in the mountains, she leaves food on the porch. It's always gone by morning. And sometimes, just sometimes, she hears footsteps in the forest, heavy, deliberate, circling her home like guardians, watching over the woman who kept their secret, protecting the bloodline of the one who showed them kindness. Some deaths span generations. Some gratitude never dies. Margaret Chen took in 2 freezing babies. The tribe never forgot. And if you're ever in those mountains, in the remote places where civilization hasn't reached, pay attention to the sounds at night. The footsteps that stop just outside your window. The feeling of being watched but never threatened. They're still out there. Still remembering. Still protecting the ones who show compassion to those society says don't exist. Margaret knew the truth. Sometimes, the most important discoveries are the ones we choose to keep silent.